If you're a business owner that's never had a strategic plan, this podcast is for you. In this podcast, I'm going to be interviewing a professional author and coach whose name is Chris Ward, and he's going to walk you through step by step how to create a strategic plan for your business. Y'all help me welcome Chris Ward.
Well, Billy, I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Excited to have you. This is going to be a lot of fun. Mainly, I'm really interested in this because I have a business right now that I've just started. I've been working, getting clarity on what the business is and how to monetize it and how to market it and all of those things. But it has dawned on me that I do not have a strategic plan in place. And what a more appropriate time to be talking to a strategic planning expert than right now and today.
Man, sounds like the time is now.
The time is now. Well, let's jump right into it because I think we should start off with you helping us. Let's say, what is a strategic plan? And then probably the next is, why is it so important?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, Billy, when it comes to a strategic plan, I think about long-term, where are we going, right? It answers really two questions. Where am I at and where am I going? So that's going to be the strategy, and the plan is like, okay, now that I have the long-term vision where I'm not just a ship out there floundering in the ocean with no destination in mind, strategy gives us that clear destination. And then the plan is, now it's Monday morning, tactically, what needs to happen right now on Monday morning in order to make that long-term vision come to pass.
Awesome. And this is something you actually help people with, like in your coaching environment? And I know you've written books, but like, walk me through that. Like, this is something that,
So it's something that became important to me, Billy, after 9 years of being a business owner, having a real estate business from 2007 all the way till about 2016. I was hitting my head up against a glass ceiling. And it wasn't because I wasn't praying and I didn't have the passion and enthusiasm for my business to serve people and to grow my business. I was praying and I had the passion and the drive, but what I lacked is a plan. And thank God for a gentleman named Rick DeLuca out of Bend, Oregon, out of all places, who just showed up on time. And I was talking to him last week, recording a podcast on my podcast channel. And he reminded me last week that whenever the student is ready, the teacher always appears. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Ooh, I
and
like
so
that.
For me, I was that student in 2015, and he was the teacher or the guide, the mentor that appeared in my life. And looking back, Billy, you talk about a blessing, because I was working 7 days a week. I was giving it all I got. And I was thinking more like an employee instead of an owner, which is why I titled my most recent book From Employee to Owner, because there's a mindset as an employee. Like, think about it. As an employee, how does one earn income?
Trade your time for money.
I mean, bingo. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a place that most of us start, but bringing that mindset into my business was keeping me stuck year after year. And I have it I should have grabbed it, but I have a green folder that's like my employee. It's actually my plan. All this strategy. I'm a practitioner, meaning I'm not just talking about this in theory. This is something that I've been implementing diligently for at least the past decade. That's really changed the game for my family and I. And because the purpose of business is to, of course, serve people, but it's also to build the ideal life for our families, right? To take care of them and serve people well and serve our families well. And yet in this folder, the best I could think of in 2008, after launching my business, I went to the printer in the real estate office and I grabbed a blank piece of paper out and I just wrote at the top. I wrote down 1 year goal. I wrote down 10-year goal first, and then I wrote down 1 year goal. And I didn't lack vision, right? So it's like, okay, I had a plan, and we know that by having a plan, according to statistics, if we were to Google this, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goal by simply writing it down and creating a simple plan. So it's like, okay, technically I had vision as far as long term on the strategy of where I wanted to go. Like that was
Okay.
crystal clear. But what I lacked for those 9 years was having the plan. Meaning, okay, that's great that eventually I want to be able to take nights and weekends off and one vacation for a year and all these types of things. It's so funny reading where my mindset was being in my early 20s and launching my business. And looking
Mm,
that at that now as a about to be 43-year-old that has a three
okay.
children and our oldest in college, Shaylee, who's about to be 21. It's like
Wow.
it's just fun to look back and go down memory lane on that piece of paper of where I was at in my mindset. But I didn't lack passion. I didn't lack even the strategy. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew where I was at, which was stuck,
Mm-hmm.
which is important because all transformation begins with awareness. So I was aware of where I wanted to be, but the thing that kept me stuck for 9 years was a plan on how to get there. So I kept getting the same
Yeah.
results year after year, man. So
Okay.
it just takes me back and I just feel that pain. So my heart goes out to the business owner that has the passion, that has the drive, that wants to serve people at the highest level because they realize that the ultimate purpose of their life is to please God and serve people, and yet they're
Mm,
stuck. How do
yes.
you know you're stuck? Well, you keep getting the same results year after year. You're not satisfied
Oh
with the
yeah.
results you've been getting. So
Wow.
yeah, it takes me back, man. That's why strategic planning is so important to me.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah. So what's really interesting about that is I we have a moral obligation, especially if you're a Christian, to
Mm.
maximize the return on the investment that God has put in us. And all you have to do is go to the parable of the talents and see, like, hey, if He gives you 5 talents, guess what He expects? All at least 5 more back. And this was something that God really hit me over the head with because I think I was kind of bowing to like some idols called comfort and convenience
Mm.
because I had built a business that topped out, but I was comfortable there. And it wasn't for me, the precipice wasn't I needed more money. It was like God was calling me to serve in a higher capacity. And that's what led to a series of events where I hired a coach. And now I'm having strategic conversations with people like you because I feel like I have a moral obligation now. It's not like this nice thing to do. It's like, no, it's like, no, God expects this from me. Like I'm supposed to maximize my potential. He's told me, at least in my heart, I feel that I'm not there. And so I need to work diligently to get there. And so this is a very timely conversation for us to have.
That's so good. It's about stewardship, right? Because God He gives each one
Yes.
of us talents. And it's like
Yes.
for so many years I read that, I'm like, okay, obviously it's talking about the financial side, but what about the gifts and talents? The things
Sure.
that how you're uniquely wired to serve people,
Mm-hmm.
the things that you do exceptionally well.
Yes.
It's like that's talent as well.
Yes, absolutely. No, so good. So good. Uh, well, so let's kind of walk through the process. All right. And
Mhm.
and I think it would be beneficial to our viewers and listeners to use a real life example. So if it's okay, I'd like to use a new business that I've just started.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's my I'm doing so I have a Fortune 500 consulting firm that's rolling along, doing well, and we have a plan for that. But I've just started a coaching side to my business where I want to help established businesses that are stuck move forward. So in a lot of ways, we're co-opetitioners. we have some
Good.
of the same we have some of the same clients, but I know that you like we believe there's plenty that we serve a God of abundance, and there's way more people that
100%.
need help than either one of us could help, and so we'll be more than happy to help each other in any way we can. I know that. And but I've not really thought through because I've just come to a moment of clarity in my business where I know that I'm going to be doing a weekly coaching call for specifically for people that have a business. They're not beginners, so they've got a business but they feel stuck, and especially in the area which is my specialty is where they feeling left behind and in the dust, or maybe very intimidated by AI and the technology that's out there. And so those are the areas that I'm going to be focusing on. But I don't have a strategic plan. And so I guess the first question I should ask from even from my business is a strategic plan for everyone. Is there only certain businesses that should have a strategic plan, or should every business have a strategic plan?
Well, that's a great question, Billy. Should every business owner have a strategic plan? And I would say um, only if they're serious, not curious about where they're going. If they're
Ooh,
just
okay.
relying on, if they think having a hope and a prayer is going to get them to their place of purpose, I would say keep going, and yet call Billy or I when that no longer works, because that will get you to where it'll get you. But
Mm,
what got you there is not going to get you to what's next. And so I would say, to the person out there listening, if what you're doing is working, God bless you, keep going. If you're just winging it, running and gunning, as some people say, hey,
yes.
God bless you. But if and when, I would say when you hit a wall and that's no longer working and you're looking to break through and go to the next level, that's where I would say perhaps consider having a strategic plan.
Nice.
I love what
Okay.
you said about coming from abundance, Billy. And I'm fascinated. I had a coffee appointment at the local Starbucks down the street, and I was overhearing a conversation, and it sounds like they were two businessmen. And I thought to
Yes.
myself, because it's always easier to see things in others
Yeah.
than ourselves,
Yes.
right?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
And I was just thinking, like, okay, where does that belief come from? And I thought, well, I
Mm,
think that the idea of scarcity, that there's only so much to go around, meaning that if somebody is interested in strategic planning, oh my, what if they call Billy instead of me, or what if they call the other person? So I
yes.
love what you said about coming from abundance, because
Hmm.
that is huge. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
even before we go down the path of strategic planning, like, what is one's mindset around abundance? Is somebody operating from an abundant mindset or
Yes.
scarcity? And a mentor of mine, that actually how I met our mutual coach, Omar El Takori, fun story,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
I had a buddy tell me about a gentleman on YouTube called Myron Golden.
I know
And I've
Myron.
watched one of his
Of
videos, and
Myron.
oh man, I've been hooked ever since. And
Yes.
uh, and so it was because of I watched the video. How I found out about Omar, our mutual coach, is because they did a podcast together. I can't remember who was interviewing who. I think Omar was interviewing Myron, and Myron, he talked about abundance, and I thought,
Yes.
that is so good. And he was talking about in Genesis. It's like, okay, how do we as believers, because you mentioned that as believers, is it
Absolutely.
like, did we just make up the idea to come from abundance and of scarcity? It's like, no, we got that from the Bible, right in in Genesis, the beginning. And Myron talks about how in the Bible that God didn't put us in a he didn't put us in a bakery, he put us in a garden.
Yes.
And if I were to down the street and buy donuts, one time this happened, true story. I went there and she said, "Sorry, Chris, we're out of glazed donuts. We sold them all." Why am I sharing that?
Okay.
Because there is only so many glazed donuts to go around. So in a
Yes.
bakery, consumption equals, if I eat all the donuts, there's no donuts left for my friend Billy. But God
That's
didn't
right.
put us in a bakery. He knew better. He put us in a garden. And think about
Yes.
this. If I eat an apple, if I go in the kitchen and buy if I go in the kitchen and grab one of the organic apples from Sprouts, there's going to be some seeds in there, probably four or
That's
five
right.
seeds. And
That's
when I
right.
consume that apple, what's left? That core and then the seeds. If I drop those
Yes.
seeds, the seeds will grow. And the cool thing about the principle there is that when the seeds go in the ground and grow, they don't just produce one more apple. No, they
No.
produce apple trees.
Yes.
Man knows how many seeds are in apple, but it's only God who knows how many trees are in the seeds themselves.
Yes.
So for
Yes.
us
No.
us as believers, man, like, we don't have to live in fear. And I think that's
No.
essential, especially for us business owners to understand. Otherwise, we're we may operate in a place of lack and scarcity, which,
Yes.
like, okay, what's the problem with scarcity? Well, instead of you and I collaborating and being here to
Mm-hmm.
serve each other and to help each other and have this friendship, like how sad would it be if I viewed you as a competitor and I need to keep my
Yes.
stuff private and make sure you don't see it? That's not how the kingdom works. The kingdom's about cooperation and connection. Because in Genesis, once again in Genesis, the first time God said something was not good was for
Yes.
man to not be alone. Now,
That's right.
obviously, the context he was talking about Adam and Eve, marriage context, but I think
Yes.
that principle applies to every area of life, meaning that if I'm building my business by myself, I know I'm making it harder than it needs to be because that's what I was doing for those 9 years, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Frustrated is I was giving it all I knew to give it, and yet I was up against a glass ceiling.
Yes. No. So good. You
You're
know,
getting me on a area I'm
we're gonna,
passionate about, Billy, because
I
you got me
know.
talking,
It's so good because we're gonna keep on this tangent because I think it's so important, and I don't know who God's gonna lead to listen to this podcast, but you know, taking that seed analogy just a little bit further
man. Mhm.
is to look at the generations that come even after the one apple tree. So
Mm.
the seed that produces the tree that produces the fruit produces an apple that produces a seed that produces the fruit and so when we look at that and you think about the generations beyond the seed and the abundance that can come from that one seed, it's exponential,
That's so
right?
good.
And
Yeah.
how awesome is that? Just to go back to your garden analogy, and you know, from a coaching standpoint too, I think about the things that we share that are being shared with us, right? So even there, right? So I don't know about you, but I freely share the things that are given to me. I just pass them along, and I look like a genius. Right, but it wasn't mine to begin with. You know what I'm like? There are some things that I feel like God inspires me to that are original content for sure. That is original
Sure.
content, but a lot of what I share is not new. It's nothing new under the sun. It's revelation that somebody imparted to me that I'm just imparting to someone else. And so, but what's
So
fun
good.
to me is to know, and especially because you know, it's not. I don't just limit it to my clients. I'm certainly sharing this with my kids who are now my kids are adults, but I think about that if they catch that, if that seed takes root and finds good soil, it will impact not just them but the generations to come. And so
So
whether it's
good.
seeds of faith, seeds of ways of working, seeds of relationship, anyway, fun. So glad you
That's
brought up that.
legacy. Legacy,
It
the
is.
impact that we have on the lives of others. That's legacy
Yes.
when it's all said and
Yes.
done.
No, it's so good. And I just I love the topic where you know we talk about strategic plan or vision for whatever it is. I mean, for we're specifically talking about business here, but it could be for our
Mhm.
family, it could be for our marriage, it could be for a lot of things. But without a vision, people perish. In other words, if you don't have something that you wake up for, if you don't have a purpose, like it's very easy to get depressed. It's very easy to just wander and walk in circles. So yeah,
Oh
this
yeah.
is good. This is really
I
good.
think in today's time also, Billy, it's so easy to be distracted, to
Yeah,
be entertained, and to
yeah,
be where I mean, I could look back and the years go by so fast. So it's like time's going to go by fast. Am I moving in a direction that is in alignment to the number one, the vision that my wife and I have together? And I think one of the biggest
yes.
mistakes people make when they hear strategic plan is it feels overwhelming and complicated and they don't even know where to start. So one of the things
Mm,
I love doing is breaking it down and making it nice and simple so people don't get overwhelmed. Because when somebody gets overwhelmed, they get stuck. They don't take action and move forward. So we have to break it
gotcha.
down and make it simple is my point.
Very good. Well, let's kind of go down that road a little bit.
Sure.
Let's use my consulting business, or not my consulting, but my coaching business, and so just to reiterate, some what my business is. I'm going to be actually charging money to clients to help them to grow their business, to help them with technology, to help them. I call it ignorance tax, right? So ignorance tax is the money we lose because we just don't know the best practices. We don't have the circle of influence that we should have. But those are two of the big things: technology, and then just because I've been a Fortune 500 consultant for 30 years now, because I've been in the boardroom, I've traveled the world, and I've worked, had my own business. I feel like, well, I know I have things that I can impart to others that would really help them with their business. And
Mhm.
so, what my model looks like, I do webinars, and so I go from a webinar, and that's how people can get to know me, to one-on-one, where I talk to them because for me it's important for that I know that I can bring somebody's money back to them. So I'm going to ask people in the end. I'm just getting started, but right now where I'm starting is I'm asking people for $10,000 for a 1-year program. Okay, and so what that ends up being is a weekly coaching call, a one-on-one business planning session, and then 2 or 3 times a year we're going to do an event where we bring people together, and it's sort of a uh, I don't know, like a little convention, a business planning convention where everybody can rub elbows together. And then I'll either bring in guest speakers, have some special teaching, that type of thing. But that's the program. And then you get access to a school community, and then a circle of a community, really, of people that are all trying to accomplish the same thing and working together towards a common goal. And then anybody that's watching this podcast is definitely going to get a feel for. There's definitely it's not an offering, but the faith based coaching just comes. It's just part of who I am, and so that comes out naturally. But I don't offer that as a line item. You know what I'm saying? It's like yeah. So that was kind of shocking to me when I signed up for Omar's program. I knew the business side that I was signing up for, but I didn't realize I would be discipled along the way. And so, especially by such a young person, and no shade to young people, but like he surprised me with just his ability to speak faith filled words into all kinds of situations. So I'm very inspired by that and leveraging that for sure in my thing. But I don't have a strategic plan. I literally have just gotten the clarity of who I am and what I want to do, and so now I'm starting to ask my questions.
Mhm.
What does success look like? Uh, where do I go from here? And so I'd love to hear your take on, and you might see me taking notes while we're talking.
Yeah, well, I've taken some
But
notes on a
yeah,
few things you said, so it's mutual, man.
yeah. All
And
right,
that's what I
good,
love
good.
about having a strategy and being strategic. Not only
Hmm.
does it answer the question, where am I at? It answers the question, where I'm going. And especially for people that are entrepreneurial, meaning they have an internal, this is what it feels like to me, an internal drive to continue to move the ball down the court, meaning make forward progress on whatever I'm
Hmm.
working on. There's
Yeah.
something about making progress that just makes me come alive on the inside. And so the question, other than where am I at, where am I going, the strategy also answers the question, how do I win? And I
Hmm.
look at, I mean, number one, the 50, what is it, the statistic? 50% of business owners within the first 5 years go out of business. Why do they go out of
Yes.
business? I think they go out of business. And coaching over 600 business owners, there's a trend I've picked up on conversations with them and looking at my own life. It's because they get discouraged. They get
Hmm.
discouraged, they get frustrated, they feel like they're losing. Why do they feel like that? Well, most of the time, Billy, it's because they haven't clearly defined how they are going to win. What does winning look like?
Hmm. So
There's a
good.
book. It's on my bookshelf. I can't recall who wrote it, but it's called Win the Day. As business
Ah.
business owners, we need to we need to create these we need to have clarity around how do we actually win in your business this year. Otherwise, how I feel if I don't have that nailed down, I always feel like I'm running behind. I feel like no matter how much I earn, how many people I serve, I feel like it's never enough. How do we get off
Hmm.
the hamster wheel of always feeling like what I do doesn't measure up. I'm running behind. It's never enough. It's we clearly define at least the one thing that we do. And when that is accomplished this year in the business, we could have this sense of winning, of making progress. That one thing has been so helpful for me.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And what's really interesting is I use that with my Fortune 500 clients. And this is a very specific nerdy area, but they have very large data sets that they work with, and their customers, the materials, their vendors, and we help them with data quality programs. And part of one of the big problems I see is they don't ever define what a real win looks like. What does a win look like? And so they don't ever celebrate when they get there because they never define getting there. So it's a lot of the same thing. It's in a very specific area, but yeah, it's the same. It's the same concept. It's great.
Right on.
So that makes me start thinking, right? So today, right before this podcast, I came off of a coaching call, and it was fun. I shared the first topic was affirmations. So like the voices in our life, especially our voice, needs to be one that's encouraging. The second thing I talked about the mindset of Moses and just looked at how crazy that story really is, because Moses started out, you got to read the whole story in the book of Exodus, of those of you who don't know, but Moses started out thinking he was going to he had a heart and a passion and a purpose to deliver his people from the oppression of the Egyptians. So he starts out taking matters in his own hands and ends up killing somebody, gets exiled from that country. But imagine the mindset that he took on that day towards his purpose. And again, it doesn't tell us this in the Bible, but I know how I would feel like I'm not cut out for this. I can't do this. It's not it's not for me. And he went off and he started shepherding. Next thing in the Bible, God himself shows up in a burning bush and reminds him of what his purpose is. And because of the mindset belief system he's put in his heart, he argues with God. He literally argues with God and said, "You got the wrong guy. Go get somebody else. I tried that, not working." And then you I mean, do you see the application here from a coaching standpoint? Like
right,
you can be standing in front of the God of the universe, burning a bush, telling you the right thing to do, and argue about
100%.
And arguing about why that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm like, very interesting. But what I loved about the story is God, who is like the ultimate coach, he works through it with Moses, even though Moses gave him a hard time. Like literally, God compromises with Moses to help Moses get to the place that he needs to be. He says, "Yeah, we can use your brother. Your brother can do the talking." And he continually has this. There's these few chapters of Exodus where Moses isn't there from a mindset standpoint. Finally gets there, and from that point on, God says to do something, and Moses just does it. But the thing that I took from all of that is how important that internal belief system is for us, for anything that we're going to accomplish. And then, even a deeper level is for the things that we were born to do, that God, the Bible says that God established works for us to do before we were even born. And so to think about that, and to think about that our own mindsets could prevent us from really attaining our purpose and potential. I was like, pooh, okay, okay, where in my life has something in the past happened that's made me adopt a mindset that says, I can't do this. This is not my calling. This is not my purpose, when I know darn well it is.
Yeah, it's so good.
And I find myself arguing with God when he asks me to do what he's called me to do. Anyway, all that to say, all of that, sorry, that was a long way around.
That was good, Billy.
It's very much in my heart and mind right now. But all that to, at the end of the call, gosh, I might get emotional about this, but one of my clients, he's like, "Thank you." He's like, yesterday I was ready to quit. He's like,
Mm.
everything that I felt like God was calling me to do, everything that I've been working for just because of the day I had yesterday, he's like, I was ready to throw it all away and go get a job. No shade on McDonald's, but he said at McDonald's, which is just a saying of like, I'm going to go
Sure.
do something different. Right. Um, and so for him to say, I just needed encouragement today. Like now, and this all ties, it actually talks back to strategic planning. Long way around to get there, but part of my win is seeing when I help someone, when I know that I've encouraged someone, and that's one of my wins. When I know, like I know I'm in God's will, I'm achieving God's purpose. When I see that my gifts are actually being used to help someone, and
There we go.
I get the feedback that I've just helped someone, that encourages me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and that I'm not off on some tangent destination thing that maybe went. So I know in my strategic plan that's got to be part of it. For me, in my
Mhm.
strategic plan, dollars matter. I think that money was one of the most talked about things that Jesus talked about in his ministry. Uh, and, you know, you can't do anything without money. You can't feed the poor. You can't help a brother. You can't pay your electric bill. And so I know that there's an element of financial independence and financial levels that I need to achieve to be able to take care of my wife, my family. For us, so we're in later stages of life. I'm 50. I turned 57 in April. One of me and my wife's core values is generosity.
Mm.
And so and again, I just want to, yeah, I want to celebrate, but not brag. We hit a year where we were able to give away $100,000. Well, praise God. But now my new goal is to give away 1 million in 1 year. And so to be able to give away 1 million, I got to make more than 1 million.
Sure.
but but why shouldn't I set that goal? Why wouldn't I want to be more generous? Why wouldn't I want to have a bigger impact? And so my financial goals or my financial levels aren't
Mhm.
necessarily just so I can stick more money in the bank. My goal is to die broke. I don't want a huge trust fund. I want to give my kids, I want to help my kids now. They need help now, not 20 years from now when theoretically, or 20, 30, 40 years from now, when I theoretically will die.
Right.
They need, if I'm going to help them, now's the time to help
It's
them.
so
But
good.
again, I can't help them now if I don't have any money.
Mhm.
And then also, Chris, something that I am, and this is becoming a burden to my heart, but I see so many people, young people, doing dysfunctional things in their life because they can't figure out how to make money,
Mm.
and especially enough money to just, I mean, literally make ends meet. Like, so they get in relationships that they shouldn't be in. They do activities that they shouldn't do. They they end up in a pickle because they're so depressed because they can't make ends meet, that they get addicted to substances that they shouldn't be
Right.
addicted to. All of that comes, I shouldn't say all of it, but a huge impact or a huge factor in what I think is happening there is their lack of ability to just live and live independently from the stress of how do I make an how do I how do I take care of my family? How do I live? How do I get a house, have a car to drive to work, buy groceries, let alone go on vacation,
Mhm.
save, give generously. And so I can't have a strategic conversation about my business or my life without talking literally about money in some capacity.
Mhm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love your desire that you and your wife have. Not only a desire, because it's one thing to have an internal desire, meaning when I say desire, I mean a something of God, of the Father, right? As far as the
Yeah.
Latin root of that word, and yet you guys are doing something about it, because having the idea is not enough. Doing is where the magic happens. And I think what you said is beautiful for two reasons. Number one, that you and your wife came together on this vision to now give away $1 million. And number two, that the highest form, like, okay, what's the purpose of money? The highest
Hmm.
use of money is to use money to serve people. And so I
Yeah.
just love your heart, Billy. And I think I can see where, I know you from, you have a playful, yet at times serious spirit about you, where you're just a fun guy. That's a word that I've
Oh,
used to describe you so far. And so I just think I could see where God's favors on you, that He's blessed you to continue to be a blessing. And I'm excited for that. And I agree. I think now's the time, that whether it's to help our children right now and people right now, it's a right now thing. It's not a later down the road thing. I heard
yeah.
somebody say that later down the road, putting off to tomorrow what we could actually do today, is arrogant, because it assumes that we'll have the gift of tomorrow.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Eventually the tomorrows run out. So it's like, okay, what can we do today? I posted this on Facebook after Bible study this morning. You know, what is it I'm doing today that brings value to others, not just myself?
That's
My
so good.
younger years of ambition in business, Billy, full
Mhm.
transparency, man,
Yeah,
was
come
about,
on.
okay, how do I make sure that I don't grow up in pay by the week motels, as I often
Hmm.
did growing up, because
Hmm.
my mom and stepdad was doing the best they can. And yet oftentimes we found ourselves living in pay by the day motels in
Mm.
Seattle, and the not, the pay by the day cheap motels are never in the nicest parts of town. And I just didn't feel safe. There
Yes.
was drug activity, prostitution
Mm.
activity, and I was just aware of that as a teenager. And so for years, my driving passion for entrepreneurship was to provide a better life for myself and then my family.
Yeah.
But the season of life I'm at now, it may just because have college kids and my kids are no longer kids, they're young adults now and all that. Just the season of life I'm in, I'm reminded it's like the person who plants the tree today, that the generation that's not even here will eat the fruit of and benefit, they're now
Yeah.
starting to understand life. Okay, how do I
Love
put
it.
that on a bumper sticker and say it more simply? It's not about me. The more I
Yeah.
increase in age, that's my way of not saying getting older. The more I increase in age, I find that
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not about me. It's about
Yes.
the next generation. You talk
Hmm.
about strategic planning, man. Like, God is the ultimate strategic planner, right? He had a vision, and then he had practical steps on how to make that vision happen.
So good. I love it. That's so good. No, that's good. Okay. So do you just start writing down, like, again, I'm going to bring it back to very practical, because I've been on podcasts where people talk about stuff and they know exactly what they're talking about, but I'm going,
Yeah,
so what am I supposed to do, bro?
right.
Yeah,
What do I do with
literally.
that?
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to take a step back away from like some of my seasoned thinking, and
sure.
try to take on the mind of somebody that really doesn't know what to do.
Hmm.
Like, do I get a whiteboard out? Do I get an Excel spreadsheet out? Like, how do I start making a strategic plan for my business?
Hmm. Yeah. I think step number one, Billy, okay, I'm on board with creating a strategic plan. Like, what do I do next? I think it's just like if we were going to plan a vacation, where, I would go to perhaps a website like Expedia to start
Mm,
checking uh, all the details. And what's the first thing it says at the top of the screen? It says, it asks for where you're at, right? What airport are you going to be
okay.
flying out of? So I think step number one, if I were to break these down in about 4 or 5 steps, I think step number one, Billy, would be, where am I at? If we're
Okay.
talking business, like, where am I at in my business? And business owners, I find that we tend to show up one of three ways. The overly optimistic, which I have to watch out for, meaning rose covered glasses, naive. It's always going to get better. It's looking bright. Like, okay. The other way we could show up is we could be overly negative, meaning it's doom and
Okay.
gloom. The world's always chaos. I better bunker down and go buy all the water like Y2K. But where the magic happens is not by being overly optimistic or overly pessimistic. It's being resourcefully realistic, meaning
Okay.
what's the data? So if we're business owners looking at creating a strategic plan for our business, it's like, okay, where are we at so far this year? What's our book
Yes.
of business? How much revenue? How much revenue have we brought in? What's our expenses? I remember one time I learned, unfortunately, the hard way that no matter how much money I earned, Dave Ramsey was right. I cannot out earn my poor spending habits. So
That's
what's
right.
the first thing that I had to do? I printed off the past 3 or 4 months of bank statements, and I went through with markers to see how much are we spending on groceries? How much
Mm.
are how much does it cost for our household to stay open? Right. So as a
Yes.
business owner, like, let's evaluate, where are we at? Let's not be
That
overly optimistic or negative. Let's look at, where do we get facts as business owner? The data. The
yes.
data tells a story. So where are we
Yes.
at? Let's evaluate the financials of business. See
That's
where
so
we at. Are
good.
we profitable?
So you bring up a great point, and I am a data guy. That's what I do with Fortune 500 companies. So I want to ask you your experience because I have much more limited experience with coaching, but and that's why I'm asking people with more experience questions like this. What I am shocked to find out in dealing with some of the businesses that I've started helping is they don't have a P&L,
Mhm.
that they don't know what their data is. Have you seen that
Oh,
much with the?
100%.
Okay, okay.
I'm almost
So
shocked if somebody actually has a profit and loss statement or a P&L. And it's like,
wow,
and what's amazing to me, Billy, it doesn't matter how big or small the business is. What's amazing to me is that how much shame and guilt and the emotions behind the financials of the business. So
yes,
helping
yes,
somebody not pull their identity from what the data reveals, we just use that as the starting point to get real honest about where we're at, so
yes.
we could figure out where we're at and then create a plan to move forward.
That's so good. That's so good. And so I think both of us would just encourage every business owner that if you're going to move in the direction of creating a strategic plan, it's hard to make any decisions or know where you're at if you don't have the data. And so as a precursor to really knowing where you're at, you've got to get a P&L in place. Uh, my and again, I would ask you for your advice as well on this, but this is
Mhm.
one area that you don't have a choice in paying the electric bill. You have to pay the electric bill, and I think it's the same thing when it comes to accounting. Um, that if you don't have the expertise, which most people don't, that and you don't have your own way to generate electricity, you have to go to somebody to get electricity. The same thing when it comes to accounting, you may have to, at least for a short period of time, because like with something like QuickBooks, they can set up rules and a P&L for you, and then all you got to do is categorize the stuff when it comes in, and it's already tied to your bank account, and it's great. That's how I do it. I use QuickBooks. It's tied to all my bank accounts, my investments accounts, all credit cards, everything, and I have rules, and it does 80% of the work for me at least. But I did have an accountant help me get set up from the beginning. How
Mhm.
do you have the same type of thought process there, or do you have other ways that you help people get their P&L in order?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different templates that I use. Oftentimes, Billy, people are already aware that they need to be using one. They're just simply not.
Okay.
And to help them, I'm reminded of I was talking to a gentleman that I met this morning at Bible study, and he said that he just kind of had like a coach's vibe. And I said, "Hi, my
Okay.
name's Chris. I've never met him before because there was about 60 of us at Bible study." And I introduced myself to him, asked him if he has an athletic background, and he smiled and said he's a baseball coach for a local college. I said, oh, I
Hmm.
said, that makes sense. You seem like a coach. So I asked him a question. I said, so in your opinion, what separates a good coach from a great coach, somebody that does it
Okay.
with excellence? And without hesitation, he said that he uses coaching baseball to help people learn life lessons. I said, that's beautiful. I said, that's actually discipleship, making disciples. And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And I said, yeah, you're speaking my language, man. And it reminds me of have you heard of the phrase, the chocolate covered carrot?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either until somebody mentioned it. I wish I remembered who so I could give them credit. And yet the chocolate covered carrot, what that means is, okay, so chocolate is it's what people want. People don't want to
Hmm.
eat the healthy vegetables, they want the chocolate, right? Or at least I
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
uh the metaphor of the chocolate covered carrot is this: people will hire us because they want to increase profitability in their business, right? To grow the
Right.
business. That's the chocolate. The carrot is the underlining reason that they're not using the profit and loss, or why they're
Yeah.
winging it and think they need to work 7 days a week, and they're missing their kids' baseball game instead of being present at dinner with their family.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I love about coaching is, sure, we help with the profit and loss and all of the systems that we help them implement in their business. But the real value is getting to the underlying issue of like what's going in their mind, of why they're self-sabotaging and not doing the things they know they need to be doing.
Mm. Hmm.
And getting to that that's the part that, to me, I would use the words like, that's ministry, meaning where loving God and
Yes.
loving people come together in coaching and consulting. So yeah, I
That's
mean,
so good.
somebody could Google a P&L template and you could download one on from a online I'm sure at no charge. Be careful downloading anything, of course, especially if you're not a
Yeah.
Mac user. And yet, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for sure, use a
That's
profit
great.
and loss. But more important than
Yes.
just doing the thing, figure out what you believe about that's causing you to resist the thing that you know you need to be doing. That's what one really
That's
needs to get to the bottom of. Because if we
yeah,
don't
that's
address
good.
the root and we just address the fruit, that's temporary behavior modification. God's not
Hmm.
interested in behavior modification. The Pharisees were. God's interested in heart transformation. That's
Yes.
getting to the root.
So good. That's so good. I love that. I love that. All right. So that's very, very interesting. That P&L, and even more like just the whole area of data, having
Mhm.
data so that you're making informed decisions and not emotional ones is
There we
super
go.
important, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
numbers always tell a story. So we want to
Yes.
evaluate that just like Expedia, start with where we're at, and we lean into the data, not opinions, not emotions or feelings. We lead from a place of getting curious about the data, not judgmental, but curiosity.
Yes. That's so good. Yeah. The data tells a story. You got to figure out what that story is.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, we can
Yeah.
move on to, we'll say, step number two, which is like, okay, a year from now, we're sitting down, we're meeting either in person at one of your events or my events, and we're high-fiving each other. So just imagine this. And we look back over the past 12 months together, and I say, Billy, tell me about your business. And you say, Chris, and you high-five me, and I'm like, what's going on? And with enthusiasm, you tell me what you've done that causes you to feel like you're winning in your business.
Okay.
And so it's like the principle is you envision the future, even if it's just 12 months from now, and you get real clear about what has to happen in order for you to win. Now, a lot of my mind is, I'm just in a different place with, traditionally, I've been big into setting goals, which is an outcome activity, where
Yes.
now, thanks to our mutual coach, like I'm starting to move kind of to the other side, where it's like I'm getting hyper focus on the basically the activities that I'm committed to doing and trust
Yes.
God for the results.
So
Right.
good.
So
That's
I
so
would say
good.
in business, okay, business, what's the one thing that has to happen in order to stay in business? That's the lead indication that we're serving people well, solving real problems and bringing value to them and not just our imagination. It's profit. That's the
Yes.
indication that we're serving people well. So I think, okay,
Yes.
business, like, let's have a profit goal.
Yes.
Money's not the most important thing, but Zig Ziglar said that's not the most important thing, but it ranks right up there with oxygen. You just have to have it.
Yeah. You just got to have
So
it.
I find in
Yeah.
business having some type of financial target or destination probably not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea. That's good.
No. So
Love it.
like, okay, how do we win over the next 12 months? Break that down according to the quarter. There's a book called the 12-week year, where you break it
Okay.
down in 90-day sections. I'm a big fan of that because sometimes, I mean, 10 years feels far out, 5 years seems far out, 12 months is around a quarter. But I find what most people need is like a 90-day strategy that's in
Yeah.
alignment with the 12-month goal.
That's so good. And that aligns with what I see corporations doing
Mhm.
that are project based,
Hmm.
and they'll call them sprints.
Hmm.
And so they'll have like a project, and then they'll break down the sprints, and the sprints are defined, as a week, 2 weeks, a month. But in the sprints are very specific things that have to happen during that time frame so that we get to the end of the project. And so you definitely have the big picture in mind, but then you break it down into, okay, so what do we actually have to do? And then what do we have to do today?
Yeah,
And so,
that's so
yeah,
good.
it's very helpful. And I did like how you brought up the idea of not tying everything to outcome. And so everything is
Mhm.
outcome based. This was a lesson we learned in raising kids. Because despite whatever you train, right, everybody's got a free will. And so we were associating choices that our kids would make with like our performance, right? And God had to deal with us on this and say, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, all our kids are adopted, and our kids came from a very tough circumstance when we adopted them. Um, and God's like, I, all I asked you to do is what I asked you to do. So you need to just learn to celebrate obedience, not outcome. And that was very powerful and freeing. Um, and he's like, I'll take care of the outcome. Like your job is to do what I have asked you to do. And then I feel like the same way in business. It's like if we show up consistently, we do our best to serve, we use our gifts and talents, the outcome will take care. God will take care of the outcome.
100%.
It's good.
It's
Yeah.
stewardship at that point, right?
Yes.
We
Stewarding our
sow
gifts.
seeds, right? We implement the the plan, meaning it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, my plan is for the next 8 more years to release one long format podcast on YouTube like clockwork and
Yeah.
trust God from the outcome, right? So it's
Yes.
before Omar, I would think, oh, what's the views and the subscribers, where those are vanity numbers is what he calls them.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
might build ego and make you feel good, but where the magic happens is being consistent and knowing what I like to refer to it as the lead dominoes. And then we just line
Yeah.
up the dominoes, and we
Yes.
are so intentional in our plan that it leads to winning with that
Mm-hmm.
long-term vision.
For
They're all
sure.
connected.
Absolutely.
And I think it's smart
Absolutely.
to break it down and go like look at the really break it down in 90-day increments, because one of the mistakes I made for so many years, man, it's like once I got on board with evaluating once a year, that too much time has gone by. Meaning that if I just evaluate once a year, that doesn't allow me to course correct quickly. A
Mm-hmm.
plane, they have what is it called? It's not auto correction,
Course
Autopilot.
correct. Course correct. Yeah, the
Yeah, it
autopilot.
course
Yeah.
corrects. So a plane doesn't fly perfectly straight. I'm not a pilot, don't desire to be one.
Yeah.
And yet what I've heard is that a pilot, they put it on autopilot. And if you were to
Yes.
look at the actual GPS measure from start to finish, it's not a perfect straight line. The
Mm-mm.
autopilot, it course corrects, meaning that it's headed a general direction and the plane will actually veer off the path, but the autopilot corrects it. So what I love
Yes.
about the every 90 days is that it allows course correction that is at
Yes.
least 4 times a year, not just once a year. Because once a year, that's too long. Too much time has
Yes.
passed. Time is the
Yeah.
essence. Time is the most valuable thing we have. And it's just more wise to course correct quickly, meaning 4 times a year versus just the once a year when it's New Year's resolution time, if somebody buys into that.
No, it's so good. So good. So interestingly enough, I am a pilot, and
Oh, really?
yeah. So I do use GPS navigation. What's fun about thinking about that, even as you were talking, is when I get in the plane, one of the first things I do is a strategic plan.
Mm,
I'm like, okay, where am I going? Where am I at? And what altitude do I want to fly at? Right. And then on the screen, it draws a line that says, if you want to get from point A to point B, you're going to need to follow this line. Right. And so from the beginning, you're seeing it from a kind of a macro view. But as you're flying all the way there, you're like, am I on the line? Am I on course? Am I on course? And
that's the
interestingly enough,
plan.
that's the
Yeah.
plan. That's the plan.
If that
And
line
so
you're talking about, that's the plan.
I love that you brought that up, as it's a great analogy, and one I can certainly relate to. The fun part
100%.
is once you get to the level where you can fly a plane with autopilot, the autopilot flies better than you,
Mm,
and the corrections are very, they're so minute that you don't even know that they're happening. And I think about that in business, and when you start out, you don't start out on autopilot. Right. And as a pilot, you have to learn the fundamentals, and you do not fly in a straight line. Right. Your
mm,
corrections are like, you're like, oh, I got to go over here, you overcorrect. Oh, I got to go over here, you overcorrect. And then
mm.
the more skill you have, the less correction you have to do. And then ultimately, if you get to a point where the plane can be put on autopilot, and I think about that with a business, once you've gone through your processes and you've honed in
Mhm.
those processes to where they could be put on autopilot, and that's where some of the things that I do with people, like with automation, where you actually have a process and you're ready to automate it, that process can actually run better than if you were doing it yourself. So
100%. And
yeah,
oftentimes,
yes,
Billy,
fun.
I'm glad you bring that up because a lot of times, if you think about the common personality trait for business owners, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
okay, somebody might be analytical and a driver, but usually they're influential. They have vision of where they want to go, and yet they're all, from my perspective, I'm always going to be limited if I'm trying to figure it out myself. And it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me, like, it if I'm if I'm in the picture frame, it's hard to see the big picture. And so one of the things
Yes.
I love about coaching and consulting is not that I'm a know-it-all and I've done all these things. I love that coaching is just offering perspective, coming from curiosity instead of judgment, and just saying
Mm.
like, "Hey, Billy, have you considered this, or what's your thoughts on this?"
So
It's just
good. Yeah.
asking questions and coming from curiosity. It's amazing that that's when it's been one of the things that was holding me back in coaching, is because for
Mm.
years I trained in offices, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to the launching the business phase. So being a teacher is a different role than being a coach. Now, sometimes they
Yes.
do go together, right? Coaching,
Sure.
mentorship,
Sure.
counseling, all those things. And yet I love that coaching is just asking questions, where
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if they have a marketing company in Australia. I could
Mm-hmm.
consult and be of value and helpful to that person and have no clue about their industry. I just know some business fundamentals. More importantly, I know us human beings, and I could start asking some questions and seeing what their pain points are.
That's great. That's cool. Yeah, going back to the aviation analogy, I think about air traffic control as kind of being a
Hmm.
coach, because they kind of know from the beginning. If you file a flight plan, they know from the beginning what your goal is, right? But they'll be there along the way to help you get there safely, and to let you know if you get off course, to let you know if there's, you know, traffic, right? So somebody you might run into that's going to make you crash or whatever, or maybe you weren't thinking about the mountains or this big radio tower that's out there. They'll be like, and they have a different perspective than you do inside the cockpit, because they can see everything around you. They can see the other airplanes. And anyways, it's kind of fun to think about that
Yeah,
too.
it's so good. Success leaves clues.
It
Others have
does.
lived before us. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out and build it by myself, without a doubt, I'm making it way harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And
So
what an
good.
advantage it is that we live in a day and age where we could learn from others. There's so much free information out there. And yet I find if there's an area of my life that I experience a gap, meaning this is where I'm at, here's what I envision, and there's a gap between. For me, it's if I had one life hack, it would be hire somebody that is good in that thing I need some help in.
Yes.
I mean, it's the
Yes.
reason I just hired the coach that I mentioned for you that's getting up in my business, looking at it, not just big picture.
That's
It's
so
when I
good.
decided to get into triathlons a few years ago, and I ended up going from couch potato, no athletic experience, to doing over 20 some odd triathlons, including 4 Ironman
Hoorah.
triathlons. I hired a gentleman out of Orlando named
Uh,
Doug, and Doug, he's been like he set me up for success. He
yeah.
told me the plan to follow. He told me the nutrition, the hydration. He met me in
Mm.
Chattanooga for the race, told me
I
what to
love
eat
that.
before. Like he set me up for success. And that's what I love about what you and I get to do is
It
that we
is.
get
It's a
to help
privilege.
people be set up for success, not because you and I know it all, because we don't. We'd be the first to
Yeah.
admit that, but
Yeah.
because we could help them consider other perspectives. And all of us
Mm-hmm.
have blind spots. We could help them
Absolutely.
increase their self awareness because maybe there's
Mm-hmm.
just something that they're missing. And for us, it could be
Yes.
obvious.
Yes. No, so good. So good. Well, an hour is not enough time to get through all of the topics of strategic planning.
Yeah.
What I want to make sure I leave people with. So, is the best place for people to get a hold of you if they want to work with you? Is it just to go to chriswardcoaching.com? Is that the best
That would
way
be a
to?
great spot because you can find my YouTube
Okay.
channel there. You can find my most recent book. And so
Very
whether
good.
my book really serves somebody that is either in the phase where they're stuck and they're looking to relaunch, meaning
Mm-hmm.
evaluate the basics, or they're in the launching phase of their business. It's the blueprint that I followed that's helped me build a multi six figure a year business working about
Love it.
20 hours a week.
Love it.
It's all game in the 114 pages. So they
Oh,
could find
love
that
that.
there as well.
That's so good. Well, let me put my personal endorsement on this. 5 stars. And if you're looking for a coach in the business realm, let me just like get over to chriswardcoaching.com, look him up and hook up. And I know you'll be glad you did.
Man, Billy, where could people go to find you?
Well, certainly on this YouTube channel
Yeah,
is great. It's a great start, and you can find me on Instagram at bthomas302. You can find me on Facebook. Just look for Billy Thomas, and the YouTube channel. You actually search for CEO Billy Thomas, and that's not an authoritative CEO. That's a Chief Encouragement Officer. And so,
that's
although
so
I
good.
do, I do like I do have some leadership skills, but uh, instead of Chief Executive Officer, I want to be a Chief Encouragement Officer. So
That's so good.
that's
I
where
love
that
that.
that's where that comes from. It's good. So,
There we
all right,
go.
very good. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. If you don't mind, I'd love to just say a quick prayer. I like to end all my podcasts with the prayer. Pray for you and your family. And we'll,
100%. Would
we'll,
it be okay if I
all
return
right,
the favor?
I would love that. Let's do it.
Good.
All right, Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity for us to share our faith, to share some of the gifts and skills that you've given us with others. I pray, Lord, that you will help the right people to find this podcast, that you will
Yeah.
help them to implement those things. And if it needs to be a connection, that you'll make that connection. If it's just a word of encouragement, that they'll get that. I pray for Chris and his family and his business. I pray blessings over them. I pray protection over them. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Yeah, Father, I thank you for Billy and really for his family unit, his wife, and even his children. That there's a generational legacy that's being passed down of values that are
Mm,
ingrained in every single one of them. And I just thank you for that. And I pray
Jesus.
for accelerated increase is what comes to mind, and
Mm,
everything that Billy is putting his hands to. And I ask that you send all the right people at the right time where he continues to go in business and create opportunities for others that will be a blessing to them, a blessing to
mm,
Billy, and a blessing to the businesses that they serve. And I just thank you in advance for that increase, Father. I pray that you give him wisdom and peace and
thank you,
divine
Lord.
guidance right from you, where not by
Yes,
his
Lord.
own power, not by his own strength, but by your
Yeah,
spirit, Jesus, that you give
by
him
your spirit,
wisdom,
Lord.
creative ideas, and insight, that he
Mm,
continues to prosper, just like it says in Psalm. Whatever he puts his hands to will prosper in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
amen.